project, like walking around the top.
Tim, are you all hooked up with the audio today?
Yes, I think I'm all set. If it goes for another 4 hours, then I'll have to get up again and try to charge my computer.
Yeah, I think we should move right along.
Ed and I had a long discussion about how I can help to keep our meetings shorter.
Well, admittedly, by you. Right, we got the thumbs up. We're ready to get started. Everyone, welcome again to our Zoom board meeting on May 27th. I should know it's my son's birthday today. And with that, let's get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Before we get into the all of the agenda items, I'd like to take a moment to discuss our most recent loss in the community. The Honorable Judge Bill Barrett, who passed last Saturday, May 16th. Bill, 26 years practicing law. He was a Manlius Village Justice for the last 11 years. Sadly, he leaves behind his wife of 14 years, Celeste, 3 daughters and a son. Very sad loss, and I know we're all very upset by this, but what I would like to have is just a moment of silence, if we could. Okay, thank you. I do want to move on to item 3, if we could, approval of abstract number 10.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 10 in the amount of $350,046.40.
Okay,
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, before we get into the continuation of the Taft Road Solar Project public hearing, I want to just give you my COVID update, as I have the last couple of times. Just so everyone will know, town of Manlius, as of yesterday, we now have 70 cases, of which there are 55 recoveries. The new cases do appear to be slowing down each week from 3 to 4, and the recovery continues to increase. If you look at the numbers, our numbers position of cases as we've dropped down in that area as far as comparing to the other municipalities at 21.9 per 10,000. And our recovery is right at the very top there with top 4. Per our county executive, Ryan McMahon, today, Friday begins phase 2. He stated that there is a positive trend with senior facilities, and he feels that we've turned the corner. He hasn't received specific guidelines from the state. For example, church openings and gatherings. He said it would be a game day decision. He likes to use those analogies, and should know more by Friday. As far as town hall, we've begun a gradual phase in with our employees. I'll have Ann, our town manager, Ann Newt, just give us a quick briefing on this, Ann.
Sure. On May 15th, the COVID-19 transition team had a meeting And we went over what our goal is. We had a status update, an overview of our phases. We went through a back to work checklist. We went over some special circumstances involving, justice court, public meetings, and the recreation programs. We went over a long-term planning, business continuity planning. Let me just check my notes here. And then just went into our different phases. And I'll read the goal quickly. I think it just helps everyone understand what our transition team has been doing. Reboarding our workforces and creating a safe environment for both workers and the public, to strengthen and support new ways of working, as well as technologies that can support better provision of our government services. So that is our goal. We continue to work through that. Just a couple updates recently. We had plexiglass was installed at Town Hall today in some of the areas where we didn't have any barriers. I believe that same company is going to be providing some similar services at the police department where they have some open areas. And I've been working with the court clerks and trying to implement any processes for future, court sessions, which is going to be several months off, but we need to be working on that right now. So that's kind of where we stand right now. And Allison and I kind of meet day to day to go over our sort of week-to-week operations and how we can be reintroducing some of our staff to Town Hall specifically.
Very good, Ann. And, once again, I want to point out how seriously our residents in the town and the villages are engaged in staying safe by wearing masks at businesses and maintaining social distancing. And I, once again, would like to commend all of you for this. With that, I would like to now, before I forget, do some introductions of attendees, including myself and the board. So I'll start with myself, at Theobald, Town of Manlius Supervisor. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Yeah. Sarah Bollinger, counselor.
John Deere, counselor.
Elaine Denton, counselor.
Karen Green, Deputy Supervisor.
Am I next? I don't know our alphabetical order.
Oh, there was a sheet, but you're next.
Okay, Caitlin Creasel, Town Councilor.
And Heather Waters, Town Councilor.
Very good. And of course, I want to introduce the rest of our town officials. I don't think Randy is here. Did I miss him? Code Enforcement Officer, Randy Capriotti. I don't see him. Chief Mike Kroll. Can you just wave? That'd be great. Highway Superintendent Rod Cushing, right in the middle. There we go. And Town Attorney Tim Ferteski. Doug Miller, Town Engineer. Ann Oot, Town Manager. And Allison Weber, our Town Clerk. And I'll just remind the presenters that if you could mute and go off video till you're ready to present, that'd be great. Of course, we're going to be moving right into the Taft Solar pretty soon. So, you guys are good to stay engaged. So with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is the continuation of make sure I got the right one here. Here we go. Taft Road Solar special permit, approving PDF resolution, Taft Road Solar special permit. I know that we did get the county report, and if I'm not mistaken, Allison, we haven't had any other comments on this Taft Road?
We have not. I am monitoring the Facebook page, and I obviously, my email has been out there, and people have been able to call the office if they like, but I have not received anything.
Okay.
And I just wanted to remind you that there's a little bit of lag with Facebook. So if you could open the public hearing and then do a little business of some sort, that'll give everybody time to catch up and make sure that we can receive comments relative to the public hearing that's open.
Sure. Yeah, when we get to the new public hearing to open up, you're talking about the North Burdick, right?
Any of the public hearings.
Okay, because the others are continuous, so I'll stall along as long as I can here. So, well, let's ask the board. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we continue to hear from?
I just want to comment, Ed, that the letter from the Onondaga County Planning Board referenced the wetlands.
Yes.
I believe the revised strategy addressed their concern. So that was just an item I thought we should clarify.
Yeah. Tim, did you have anything that you wanted to speak on that part?
They're in their application, they have said that if they are going to be within the 100 foot of the DEC wetland, that they would get a DEC permit for that. So, which would be required. But I think Sarah's correct. I think they are going to try to avoid that.
And we'll work through that during the site plan approval, Tim, with the applicant. I see Drazen nodding his head, so.
Correct, yes.
Do you want to add anything to that, Drazen?
No, just we downloaded the letter, the resolution, we read through it, and we agree with all the items that are listed on there. So correct, the new approach that we have indicated would be to stay out of the wetlands.
Very good. Unless there's any other comment, I would make a motion to come out of the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on, should we cover the seeker now, or should we vote on?
No, we'll do seeker now. Did you close the public? Was that a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. And so nobody else had called Allison, as far as you know.
No.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to do the seeker analysis, and Allison has put it up on the screen for you to review with me. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of time because it was a full EAF.
Yeah.
The answers that I have when I went through this, most of it will be no or small impact may occur. Let's remember what we're doing. We're trying to determine what the environmental impact of the solar array community project will be, and whether it will be a significant environmental impact or not a significant environmental impact. So we need to go through part 2, and I'm going to read the questions and tell me what you think in terms of the sub questions underneath it. Impact on land is the first question. Will the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land of the proposed site? And the answer to that is yes, it will. But now we have to go down and look. And will the proposed action involve construction of land where depth of water table is less than 3 feet? Drazen, there are areas less than 3 feet in this.
Yes, so there's certain areas, again, with the delineated wetland that has some established water, and those are the areas that we're steering clear, and there are existing farmer ditches that were established. So, those are currently dry, but when there is a rain.
So the answer is no to small impact. The proposed action may involve construction of slopes of 15% or greater. No small impact. Yes, please feel free to step in. I'm gonna assume they're no to small unless they hear differently.
Yep.
But please feel free to step in. Proposed action may involve construction of land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. That's, I think that's no to small. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. That's not going to happen, so that's no to small. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year. That's not going to happen. It won't be more than 1 year, right, Drazen?
Correct.
The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. As we know, the posts that are going to be put in are going to be small. There will be hundreds of them, but they will be small, will not have an impact on erosion. The proposed action may be located within the coastal erosion hazard area. That's noted small. All right, so based on that, the impact on the land will be minimal.
Right.
Anybody disagree with that?
Nope.
Let's go to question 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique, unusual landforms on the site, cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. The answer to that is no. We are not aware of any geological features on this site. Unless anybody knows differently.
No.
Okay, so then we'll move on to question 3. Impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. Again, we just discussed this. The applicant has determined that they are going to try to avoid the wetland, so the answer to this would be no also. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in the new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contamination to groundwater or to an aquifer. We're not aware of any aquifers on this site, and the depth of the poles will not impact any water bodies or any introduce any contaminants. Will they, Drazen?
Not to my understanding.
So we're going to say no to that. Impact on flooding. The proposed, this is number 5. Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. We're not aware of any impacts on flooding for this area.
I looked at the flood maps and it's not there.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Number 6, impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. The answer to that is no. 7, impact on plants and animals. Proposed action may result in the loss of flora or fauna. This is a grassland right now. There is not significant flora or fauna on the site, and the impacts will be just the being of the poles or the poles that would hold the arrays. Does anybody think that that's going to have a significant loss of flora or fauna on this site?
No. I don't believe
No.
so.
We'll go to impacts on agricultural resources. That's number 8. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. This is not, has this been farmed? Drazen?
It has been farmed in the past, but we have gone through ag and markets for this application.
Okay. Does any, when, do you know when the last time it was farmed was?
I think the client said 2 years ago. Andrew, you can correct me if that's incorrect. I thought it was 2 years ago.
No, this particular property hasn't been farmed. Is not being farmed and has been farmed for quite some time. So
That's what yeah, that's the impression.
more than it's been more than, yeah.
Yeah, Tim, the other thing is it is not in an ag district,
Okay.
Correct.
right?
Correct. It's not an ag district, so we did not have to go to ag and markets.
Correct.
For this.
Correct.
That'd be correct, Andrew.
All right, so we're gonna say no to that one also. 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. We're not aware of any aesthetic or scenic resource in this area that would be have been designated by either the town, the county, or the state.
I believe not.
Yes, so we're gonna say no to that. Impact on historical and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. The answer to that is no. Question 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of open space resources designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. We don't have an open space plan at this point, and this has not been used for recreation as far as I know. So the answer to that is no. Number 12, we're almost done. The impact, the proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. It is not. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change in existing transportation system. The answer to that is no. Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. It will, but this is the whole purpose of this community array is to provide renewable energy, which by its very definition is going to be an improvement to the environment as opposed to an impact to the environment. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to say no to that one.
Mhm.
Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. I don't believe there's any proposed outdoor. There was something for an outdoor light, was there? Andrew, do you recall?
No, I don't.
No
We
outdoor
don't.
light? Okay. And it will not generate noise or odors. So the answer to that is no. Impact on health, on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contamination. We're not aware of any sources of contamination that the arrays would have. In fact, they're closed, and we had discussed that at our, I think, at the presentation of this process. So again, the answer is no. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with an adopted land use plan. That's not true because these are allowed in the RA district, which is where this land is. And consistency with community characters, number 18. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. Because this is an allowed use, it would not, because there are no other sites like this in the area, doesn't mean it's out of the community character. This is an allowed use in the RA district. But I'm willing to listen to whether or not you want to go through A through F on that sheet.
Question, Tim, could you,
Yeah.
Allison, could you scroll up just a little bit? Yeah. So consistent with community plans, we don't have a land use plan in the town of Manlius.
That's correct.
So,
our land use plan is basically our zoning.
okay. So we're allowed to switch out a land use plan for zoning.
Sure.
So then it,
yeah, the plan ostensibly informs the zoning, right? So,
right. So I think that for me, I would say that, that no, it is not inconsistent, or the proposed action is not consistent. So yeah, I would say no, right?
Yes. For number 18.
For 17.
Okay, so we did, yep, I agree with you on 17. We're on to 18 now. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
Okay, so my scrolling was behind.
So the kind of things they're talking about are the proposed action may replace or eliminate existing facilities, structures, or areas of historical importance to the community. The answer to that is no. The proposed action may.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim.
The proposed action may create a demand for additional community services. The answer is no. The proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing. The answer is no.
No.
The proposed action may interfere with the use of enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources. The answer is no.
No.
So the proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character of the community. This is a largely rural area without any specific character, community character
Yeah,
that identifies this area.
there's no architectural scale there.
Correct.
So yeah, no.
And then the proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape.
No.
I guess you can argue that it is, but will the impact be large? I don't think so.
I think given how close it is to the power lines, I mean, there's already utilities running through the property, so I think that's a good argument to say that no, it's not inconsistent with the existing.
Okay, so that's where we're going to go. We're going to say no. And that concludes part 2 of the environmental assessment form, the long environmental assessment form. Based on all those answers, there was only one question, and that's the impacts on land that we answered yes, but under the subcategories, each of the questions that were raised, we said would have a no or a small impact. So I think based on all of this discussion, we can issue a negative declaration under seeker. But before we do that, let's make sure I don't recall if we made ourselves the lead agency on this. So
We did.
if somebody wants to make a motion and make ourselves the lead agency for this project.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to make the town of Manlius lead agency for this. Is this an unlisted action?
Correct.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any further discussion? Okay, approved. And then we need the negative declaration, right?
Yes.
Caitlin, go ahead.
So now we're making the motion to pass the,
No, we're making the motion to determine that this is not going to have a significant environmental impact under seeker, or in other words, we're going to issue a negative declaration.
all right, so I'd like to make a motion to issue a negative declaration.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, approved. All right, let's see. So now we'll need if we're ready to vote on the special permit.
Correct.
Need a motion for that.
And I prepared a resolution that I think has been provided to everybody to approve the special permit for this site. So if everybody's read it and they're comfortable with it, we could just pass a resolution adopting the resolution, or pass a motion adopting the resolution.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to sign the resolution approving the special use permit.
Thank you.
Tim, was there an expiration date on that? Let me
I
just,
think 7 years.
Should be.
okay. Right, and then the removal bond?
Yes, there will be a removal bond will be required.
Okay. I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. All right, very good. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good work, board. This is our second or third public hearing we finished. I'm losing track.
A little bit quicker than it was the last time around for the first one anyway.
Now, this next one should be somewhat, it's a continuation again of the photovoltaic solar program, which
Yep.
Caitlin, you had given the presentation on that, I believe, at the last meeting. And Allison, there weren't any further communications on this?
Nothing.
Okay. So in this case, Tim, we're just, you have the local law that we need to, well, we have to come out of public hearing unless there was anyone else that had discussion, which they don't, correct?
Did we
Yeah,
want,
we need
we're
to close the public hearing.
Yes, we need to close the public hearing, right? If
a
all-
little bit delayed, Allison, right? Are we ready to do that, or do we need to
Well,
wait?
yes, I can. Are we good? Okay,
We're
good.
good? Okay. So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing regarding the local law 2020-3 to amend the solar PV law in the town of Manlius.
Caitlin, 1 second. It looks like Karen is reconnecting. Just want to make sure before we move forward.
I can hear you though. I don't know. Yeah.
Are you good, Karen?
I'm good.
Okay.
We'll need a second.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Excellent. Tim, do we just need to move into the adoption, voting on the adoption now?
Yep.
We're all in agreement?
That's correct.
For this resolution. So who would like to do that?
So before I make the motion, just to remind everyone exactly what we're voting on this evening, this amendment to the law will make one change that will help to encourage solar development in the town, and that will remove the requirement for a fence around a ground-mounted system. So that will allow it to be cheaper and easier for people that have property available and don't or are unable to put it directly on their roof. And then the second change is passing the unified solar permit, which will streamline and make more efficient the process by which solar installers and residents that are interested in going solar in the town are able to get that through the approval process. So we'll have safer, more efficient process for anyone interested in going solar in the town. So does anyone have any questions or anything before we vote? All right, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Supervisor, regarding local law 2020-3, amending the local law related to solar photovoltaic systems, that we passed this new law.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Nice job.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We've only been working on that for 2 months, so good job. We passed a lot.
How about that fence, you know?
Thank you, everyone. This was very exciting. This was one of the things I wanted to do when I was running for office last year. So this is really, it feels like a little bit of like a little change, but the unified solar permit is huge. So it'll really help people to go solar in our community. So that's a very big deal. Thank you all for your support on this issue.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good work. All right. Next, we're going to move on to the item 6, which is the zone change at 5538 North Burdick, from RA to RM. Allison has suggested, of course, that what we'll do, the presenters, the Scotts, I guess, and Chris, if you can unmute yourselves and, of course, bring yourselves up. What I'd like to do is, so we give the public time to weigh in, is make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice first.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I would make a motion to waive the public reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and now I'd like to open the public hearing. Need a motion for that.
I make a motion to open the public hearing on a zone change for 5538 North Burdick.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And would you like to introduce the guests?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do next. First, this is a little different. Usually we have the presenters give everything before we open the public hearing, but to give Allison time and the public to weigh in, I will ask the presenters to give their presentation while the public hearing is open. And that'd be, again, Scott Dumas is here, and Scott Freeman, and I think Chris Danaher. Yep, there you are, Chris. So if you would like to begin by giving your presentation of the program, and then before we open to the public, I'd like to make sure that the board gets to ask questions first and engage in conversation with our presenters. Once we're done, then Allison will open it up to the public. Okay, so you are up, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for your attention again. We have no significant changes to speak of because of the desire for a zone change. I'll say, as we prepare for what we hope will be a successful site plan review process, this pandemic is causing significant, to be gentle, headaches with regards to design and planning process. What have long been standards of waiting areas, patient meeting rooms, and employee break areas, even office space, are changing as we speak. Our design teams are constantly redesigning interior spaces to meet what are really anticipated rule changes with these functions. Additionally, even the ability to commit to certain materials has been a challenge. Building designing are in question because of these material limitations. The traditional process, which usually includes endless salespeople in showrooms, is all in hiatus. But even obtaining sample materials have been a challenge. I just wanted to put that out there, let everybody know. It's something we're working on. The design process is quite fluid, but no real changes in terms of zoning. I'll now turn it over to Chris Danaher.
Hello, everyone. As it was mentioned earlier, that we were before this board approximately a month ago. We were seeking the zone change for this property from RA to RM. After that meeting, we went before the planning board and presented our zone change to the planning board. That was recommended that we proceed forward before this board again for the zone change, and that's why we're here tonight, and that's a little bit of the history. As Scott mentioned, really nothing has changed from a zoning perspective, so I won't get into the full-blown presentation, but if there's questions about it from the board, I can certainly bring up the presentation. Essentially, the property is on North Burdick. It is near the retirement community, North Medical Center. The property is pretty much surrounded by RA, except immediately on its east. Next to the property near the road is RM. That's the Fietta property with the ponds. Lower down away from the road near the ponds is RA and R1, but essentially next to our property is RM, and what we're seeking is an RA to RM. And again, across the street is the retirement community. The parcel is approximately 4.24 acres of land. It currently has a single family residence on it. The property backs up to the Erie Canal. It's our intention to demolish the existing building on the property, and understanding that we have to go through site plan review with regard to what we're proposing for the development. As part of the application, we did provide preliminary site plans, and we plan again on securing site plan approval if we're able to proceed forward, which we hope we are. But if you need more detailed site plan outline, Scott Freeman's here tonight to provide that. So if Scott, if you want to get into, or the board would like site plan presentation, Scott can do that again, understanding that we are going to get into further site plan review as we proceed down the road for the development of this site.
I do have one quick question.
Sure.
Just to open it up a little bit, we did get the county report back from the Onondaga County Planning Board. And one of the things that I read in here, and I know this is typical, but again, it's one of those things I'm not familiar with. And of course, they were talking about the impact on the bat species, the brown bat. There was an advisory note here about a request to a project screening should be submitted. Can you explain what that is, or anyone, Tim, is anyone familiar with that? Okay.
That was a recommendation, I think, Ed, from the Onondaga County Plan.
Yes, it was from.
Yeah, I think what they were talking about, Ed, was, just from a perspective of the road, putting some screening up, and Scott Freeman had spoken about that to the planning board, and I believe to this board also, where he showed some curb appeal with some plantings, and I think, Scott, you had some maple trees and some other things that led to the curb appeal. And then we also discussed at the planning board, Scott Dumas and Scott Freeman, the desire of the new applicants to take advantage of the backdrop behind the building with the Erie Canal and the aspects of bringing that into their their whole practice. So I think what we talked about at the planning board was very consistent with what we got back from county planning. And I think, you know, the applicants here could speak to that too, you know, Chris or Scott.
And wasn't there a concern though, Doug, too, about the parking, maybe taking the parking around the side or the back of the building, and then the wastewater management and runoff?
There was a comment in there that said, you know, if possible, you know, it should be taken under consideration to bank parking. And we've done that on past projects where we allow for the parking on the site within the regulations, but we may not build that out immediately. And to the aspects of water and wastewater, Karen, Scott Dumas and I have visited the site in the past couple of weeks, and we've gone through some scenarios that we think would be advantageous for Mr. Dumas and Mr. Freeman to move forward. And I'm sure they've shared that with Chris also. But, you know, from everything that we've seen at the planning board level, the recommendations back from the county, it looks like a pretty solid plan, and it looks like it would be an enhancement to that corridor as we move forward in different aspects in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did want to
Thank you, Doug.
Sure.
Before the board, once we finish all the board questions, Allison does have some comments from some of the public on this, if I'm not mistaken, Allison, that you want to read before we really open everything up, I think. So just wanted to, you know, preface all of this with that, so that Allison can, you know, give us that information. So I know we had a lot of questions last time, and I think they answered them all accordingly. So does anyone else from the board have any questions or comments? And
I do, Ed, if you.
Yes.
John has one. Go ahead, John.
John does too, yeah.
I just, in the feedback we got from some of the residents that Allison will be reading, I did want to point out, I think one of the major concerns is how this will affect traffic with sightlines. I know we discussed that quite a bit in the last presentation we received. But I do just want to say, you know, relevant to the zone change, we understand that that's not really relevant to this. But as it moves forward, possibly to site plan review, the fact that many of the residents do use this for biking and jogging and stuff like that, just wanted to point out that it would be really good to take that into strong consideration. There's some not resistance, but worry about changing the character of that part of the road. And so whatever can be done to allow for greater sightlines and, you know, as far as traffic coming in and out of the facility, making sure that isn't going to drastically affect, you know, the current traffic situation. Just something I wanted to flag because it was some feedback we've been hearing quite a bit.
Point well taken. Thank you, John. Sarah, you had something?
Yeah, my follow-up was also based on the input that we received about traffic. And I wondered if you know, or if you could prepare an answer for roughly the volume of in and out that the practice anticipates, that if it's 3 patients an hour or 10 patients an hour or whatever, so that we could respond to the traffic concerns with some kind of factual information.
This is Scott Freeman. Yeah, we had hired the design services of Gordon Stansberry, GTS Consulting, and I don't have the report at my fingertips, but we can certainly put together we'll put together a summary that addresses we'll take a 20-page report or whatever it is and put it into a paragraph form to share with the community.
That would be good, because people are nervous because of the unknown. So once they have the facts, it may be different.
We can do that. Would you like me to share screen and have the site plan up as we go through the public hearing? Would that be helpful?
Sure, that would be great, because some of the attendees maybe didn't catch the last time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Because I think what we'll do is, when Allison reads off some of the emails that we received, and correspondence. I would just ask that, the presenters that you respond accordingly, and then of course we'll see if we have any other, Facebook questions as well, and Allison will inform us of all that. So with that, Allison, do you want to read
Sure.
off some of the?
Sure. On May 20th, I received a letter from Marcia Phillip. She lives on Parkington Circle and has lived in Erie Village for over 30 years. She, being a lover of nature, walking, hiking, and wildlife, Erie Village was a perfect place for me to live. Over the years, the surroundings have become less and less of a wild natural habitat. I watched a family of wild turkeys diminish. They live in the area of the retirement resort when the land was cleared across from town center at one point. An incredible amount of bats appeared around us, landing on and around our homes as they were misplaced from their homes inside the trees. We started having flooding issues coming up over the wetlands that border our walking trail and path into our lake when all was built across the way, retirement homes, condos, Northeast Med. There will be so much noise and construction every day in our once peaceful corner of the world as there was when Northeast Medical Center was built, as well as the retirement resort. Now there will be more traffic to what is already an issue. I feel like soon all the once treed and wooded area will be gone. Wondering why town feels like they have to make the Fayetteville Village into an Erie Boulevard. I know my letter won't amount to much in the scheme of things, but I feel better. I've shared my concerns, as many of the residents share the same concerns. Patricia Schmidt sent a letter on May 24th. Objections against the project for the following reasons. 1, traffic issues exist in and out of town center and several other businesses. It is impossible certain times of day. 2, it will be too near the quarry where a future park or residential site could develop. 3, many live in the Erie Village, Fremont Hills, Fremont Meadow areas, and it is often impossible to get onto North Burdick. Traffic is heavy now and would get even worse. We have plenty of dentists in the area. There isn't a need. Senior citizen complexes in the area would find driving even more challenging. Please seriously consider turning down this project. Thank you. And then John Rose sent a letter on May 26th. I'm writing to express my opposition to the proposed site project at 5538 North Burdick Street for the following reasons. 1, overdevelopment and environmental issues. This project will contribute to an increased carbon footprint. While this plot is presently unkempt and aesthetically unattractive, this area could be easily transformed into a beautiful green naturescape if maintained. I frequently bicycle along the Poolsbrook Road, which has several maintained open green spaces, which contribute to the beauty of this area. Why not here? Green and empty spaces contribute to the beauty of Fayetteville. 2, safety concerns. This is already a heavily trafficked area. It is challenging at different times of the day to get out of Fayetteville Town Center onto North Burdick, as well as getting onto North Burdick from Erie Village, and other access roads. The demographic of this area is a high concentration of seniors. 2B, North Burdick Street is often used by joggers, walkers, and cyclists. More traffic makes these activities less safe. A commercial ingress-egress on the northwest side of North Burdick will contribute to hazardous travel. 3, oversaturation of dentist office. According to Google, there are no less than 30 dentists within 2.5 miles from Erie Village in the Fayetteville area. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input, John Rose. That's it.
Ellie, there's a question in the box.
Yes. Sorry, I was reading. Chris Carrick says, if I'm not mistaken, the speed limit on North Burdick Street is 45 miles an hour. So will the town consider reducing this given the curve in the road where the site is located?
Rob, you could answer that because that's a county road, right?
Yeah, the town board would have to petition the state to actually lower that, Allison. So it's a county maintained road, but they would have to actually petition the county to lower it, not the state. I'm sorry.
And I know that we have had approached on Burdick, I think from the canal up to 290, which that didn't go very well. And
yeah, I think a year or so ago, Ed, there was some question about the speed there, and I think they did a traffic study along through there, and I believe they found that they wouldn't lower the speed limit through there at that point in time.
And it turns 40 up by Merrick.
Yep, exactly.
Quick question. Did we ever vote to open the public hearing?
Yes.
We did.
Yes, 7:07 p.m.
Yeah, we wanted to get right into it, Kayla, so that we give the people time to, get connected. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, so on the question of the speed limit, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we lowered the speed limit on Bowman Road and then the county made us put it back up.
Actually, I think it was never officially posted properly, Sarah. I think it was back in the late 70s, early 80s. It was just posted at 30 miles an hour, but not by the state DOT. I think it was just done randomly. Because that road was only, it used to go to the landfill only at one point, and then they dragged it all the way through to Route 290. So I don't believe that it was ever done through the state METCD standards. So there was some question about it, and I believe it was petitioned. So the state went back and they did a study upon that road, and that's why the actual speed limit went up on that road, actually.
And didn't Scott or Chris, remember we were concerned with the amount of traffic there. I know that was one of our first conversations we had. One of you addressed that. I can't remember who. Could you address that a little again?
Scott Dumas, do we have a copy of the completed traffic report from Gordon?
Oops, unmute. From GTS, we do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't have it at my fingertips, but the traffic I can summarize the findings of that report. Basically, it said, well, we started with the driveway, the proposed driveway and the site distance, and the county wanted to see this plan, the proposed driveway on a site survey. That was step one. They reviewed it preliminarily, and then Gordon Stansberry took that same site survey with the site distances on it. When he went out in the field and he measured site distance during the middle of the day during some heavily trafficked times. And then he documented that in a report. And that was something he did in addition to the traffic study. And when we submitted the traffic study and the site plan on the survey, the county said that the location that we had chosen for the driveway was located in a position where you would have adequate and safe distance turning in and out, because there are two lights on either, when you make left or right out of the driveway, and there are adequate gaps to get into those lanes of traffic according to the study. But as pointed out earlier by a board member, that study is pretty involved, but there is a summary section that we'll put together and share that with the board, so we can share that with the community.
Yep. Anyone else want to address any of the other questions and concerns from the email?
Yeah, I had a question, Scott or Chris. How long do you anticipate construction if this project goes forward to take place?
I think Scott Dumas can answer that because he's under contract to build this in a pretty aggressive timeline or he loses his practice.
We are, thanks, Scott. Thanks for the pressure, Scott. We are looking to get site and the building up before snow falls. We'd be doing interior finishes through the winter. They would be opening roughly May of next year.
All right, so construction about 6 months then. I'm thinking about exterior.
Yes, exactly.
Construction trucks.
Exactly. And one of our goals with the design, and this has been a big push of the owners, is to minimize how much, as they say, we impact the site. It's got a really cool slope down towards the canal. They'd like to be able to utilize that and keep as much of that as they can without retaining walls. So they're pretty big on that, but we do have a tight window. Safe to say 6 months, yes.
Just to piggyback on what Scott was saying, one of the first things to be constructed would be the detention basin, because it's of significant importance to protect the canal. So on day one, once we got through the site planning process, we would put the silt fence up at the lower portion of the site and then get into the storm detention basin. And the good thing about that is we could, being that would happen in the, the summer to late fall, we can get that seeded and then work to the building through the winter.
Hi there. So I was listening to I had read the letters that people sent in and then heard them again when Allison read them out. And I guess I'm categorizing the neighbor response as worries about traffic and safety on the road and sort of how it impacts both pedestrians and cyclists and people in cars. Limiting our green space in the community, although this is of course private property. And then thirdly, also just looking at the market for these kinds of offices and wondering, why we have so many dentists, I guess they were saying. I remember from our last conversation, and I don't know if folks heard this, we talked about the fact that in terms of impact, this kind of development being considered of the lightscape, dark sky. I'm not sure of the provision, what it's called again, but dark sky provision, so that the light isn't.
Yes, dark sky compliant lighting.
Right. Thank you.
It's, if you don't mind me jumping in there, we have a design team, IPD engineers, and they just put together they call it a lighting photometrics plan, and the design intent is to illuminate the parking lot, and they located two four-headed light fixtures within the parking lot, and there's a numeric plan called a photometrics plan, and that photometrics plan shows the light dissipates before it hits the property lines in the front, and there'd be some minimal wall pack lighting on the building, but we're just getting ready to pull our package together for the planning board to review. So right now we have this one color site plan, but what's going to be submitted tomorrow is the full drainage calculation study for the sizing of the basin. It'll have a full lighting photometrics plan. It'll have a landscape plan on there, but the lighting has been addressed. I don't have all the information, but I think maybe if we follow through with the traffic summary, we could also issue to the board independently, the zoning board, if you'd like. We can give you the photometrics plan for public review and use. That plan has been completed.
Thank you, Scott. I have a question for Doug. Doug, related to the question or the comments and the observations that the Erie Village resident was making about the turkeys, the bats, the flooding, are you aware of impact on the Erie Village site at all can you speak anecdotally or with any data that we have on what the impact of the Northeast Medical Center, or the medical center, and the town center and the resort living construction on that area?
So some of the comments are the first time I've heard those comments, the turkeys, the bats, et cetera. I'm pretty familiar with what we did with the resort lifestyle, and that was compliant with the whole seeker process and, everything that goes with it. As far as, flooding in Erie Village, I'm not aware of that. And it wouldn't appear that activities in this area would impact the Erie Village area. In fact, for this site and the resort lifestyle site has a very extensive underground system that controls stormwater. And this site wouldn't have, and as elaborate as a site from what Scott Freeman has shown us here, but this site would also be required to mitigate stormwater at a rate equal to or less than what's on the site right now.
Thank you. So you know, so I those were things I needed to understand because I want to be sensitive to what the residents have brought up. And something that every time we have a conversation about a new plan, we think without a comprehensive plan that sort of articulates the town's looking for more green space, we're seeking it, until we have something that communicates to those who would be developing exactly what our priorities are, areas, the kinds of things we're looking for. We're really in a tough spot in sort of demanding or insisting on those things, except for, of course, you know, our existing zoning. I would say, though, I'm curious to know if there's an interest in sort of taking up some of the green infrastructure, additional green infrastructure options, since we expressed some of that interest in charging stations and things to increase efficiency even further. If you know that the project is sort of in the site plan stage, is inclined to increase those options.
I'll just say
I know that's not really where we are right now, but
no, I get you. I get you. I will say that the owners do have that in mind. With what's going on, redesign hasn't been so much along those lines as it has been with figuring out how exactly this is going to work going forward. But they have expressed interest in solar, if we can make that work, and some of the other green options. They're on board with that. We're just trying to figure out how this office is going to function in the future.
Thanks very much.
And let's not forget, you know, we're looking at, does this fit the zone change? You know, does this particular, not so much what it is, because that's, again, the owners, if they think dentists are needed, that's up to them. That's really not our choice there. And you're right, Heather, this, once it gets back to the planning board, then all those things are taken into consideration. What we need to know is this going to meet the residential mixed zone, you know, where we don't want it to look like Erie Boulevard, as the one person said. So we want it to look like it fits the residential area, but yet it's a business that's, you know, productive and you know, in the town. And to address, you know, Marcia's concerns, we actually did talk about that. I think, Scott, you mentioned how there's that space behind that goes up to the canal that's not going to be touched. There's a lot. I mean, look at that. I mean, there's a lot of green on this, you know, and it's good to see. So I think what, you know, and again, we're extending this, of course. We're not closing this tonight because we want people to have more time to get back to us. But again, I think that we need to remember that this is a zone change that we're looking at for that area. And so, yeah.
Just to comment on that, just specifically to within a residential mixed use zone, medical offices like this are expressly permitted. So it is an appropriate use of that zone.
That's true.
And in our previous presentation, they talked a little bit about design elements, which again will go to the site plan, where there's sort of more of a residential look to the building. So I think the point of, is this appropriate for RM? I think the answer is clearly yes.
Right. Thank you, Sarah.
I do just want to point out, we had some questions on Facebook regarding this. One of them from Sandy Shep. Is this the same property that was denied 9 or 10 years ago for residential apartments? Does anybody know about that?
Tim, would you know? I don't remember this.
Not to my recollection. I don't believe this was ever proposed for anything. This has always been a residential house, and I don't think it's been.
I think the apartments proposed were lower on the hill, more where that falling down white building is.
Yeah,
Right.
There was.
Oh,
it was all part of the Fiata project, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, it was farther down. And
then
that was going to be housing and apartments, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, but that wasn't denied. They withdrew their application, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was pertaining to when the traffic study was done. They were curious if it was done during the lockdown.
That was done pre-lockdown.
Thank you.
That's a good question. And Scott, it did snow just 2 weeks ago, so I wouldn't use that until the next snow flies by the time it gets done. But anyone else? I mean, we can, again, we can continue this open as we will do until the following meeting. Unless any of the board members have any other questions or presenters, anything else, we can keep the, do we need a motion to extend? Is that what we do?
I have one more question, Ed, before we move on. My general feeling on this is that I'm not in support of a zone change on this piece of property at this time. And I know that we don't, once we change the zone, we don't have a lot of control over the site plan review, if any. So it just seems to me like they can say that this is all going to be left green, and we can say that that parking lot looks huge, and that that's not ideal for this piece of property. We wouldn't be able to control that. So we could change the zone, and no offense to these gentlemen that I've presented, but we would have absolutely no control over what happened. They could flatten the whole thing and just put in a giant parking lot. And I just don't feel like this piece of property, with considering its whole considering the whole perspective of this piece of property, it's directly adjacent to the Erie Canal. If you look at a satellite image, it's right next to the quarries. There's plenty of property to put a dentist's office. And then in addition to that values-based perspective of preserving green space and it being right next to this asset that is totally undervalued and underappreciated in our community, the Erie Canal. And it backs up to everything the Village of Fayetteville has worked so hard to do. And it just feels like this piece of property has so much potential to be something really wonderful, and that I would be disinclined to make such a big change in changing the zone for any project that of any kind on this piece of property. I don't think that it fits in with the general direction that the town is going. And then subsequently, if there's I was driving over there just the other day, and I thought this is going to be such a dangerous place to put in a turn. And we can do the studies, and I hear that, but I also live here, and I think that we would see car accidents. People fly around that corner, and if you changed the speed limit, that wouldn't slow people down. The speed limit is not what changes people's behavior when they're driving. You need a road diet, you need more dense development, and that none of that would be influenced by this project. So that's my general take on it at this time. But I just wanted to share that with everybody before we.
Of course, controlling what goes in there is done with the planning board and what meets RM. So that whatever, if they change their mind, they'd only be able to build what is required in an RM zone.
Right, but once we change the zone, and correct me if I'm wrong, then our ability in the planning board's ability to drive the details of the project, as long as it fits the zone, is somewhat limited. Like, we can't say you got to keep that tree, but you can lose that tree. Like, we're not going to go do that, obviously. So if we're concerned about preserving the environmental integrity of this piece of property, changing the zone is a surefire way to undermine our ability to do that.
And I'm looking at revenue too. So we have to look at what helps us, survive as a town and a community. And this would be a major positive impact in that area. I get the environmental aspects, and I think that the planning board, I think the presenters have certainly addressed all those. And we would make sure that they follow them according to, all the environmental requirements that are needed. But, that's fine. We need to have more input. I'm sure that's why we're not closing anything today.
Yeah.
And we'll continue this on. Anybody else? wanna?
This is Chris Danaher. I just think it's important to understand that I think this area is transitioned. I think that an RA zone here, I don't think you're going to see single family homes that are going to preserve complete green space. That area has transitioned somewhat. And the purpose of RM is to have that transition from residential to commercial, which is further down south on North Burdick, and to soften and make that transition smooth. And so this RM district would serve that purpose. And then as to the site plan, I don't disagree that you change a zone, but we've already come very far in site plan presentation and a zone change to show you how committed we are to the development of this site, the way we're trying to develop it, and hopefully with the planning board, if we get there, that we can do that addresses all the concerns of the town.
Okay, thanks, Chris. All right. Any other comments from the public anywhere? Facebook, I don't see anything on our screen here. So I think we can move on to.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to June 27th. Is that the correct date?
I think it'd be June 10th, wouldn't it?
June 10th.
June 10th is the next meeting. June 10th is the next meeting, your anniversary.
That's right. I should remember. Okay, so I move to extend the public hearing to June 10th, and we will accept comments until then.
And I'll second that, Sarah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. Thank you, Chris, and Scott, or Scott, and Chris. I get mixed up here, but I appreciate your presentations again and the input from the public as well as the board. And we can now move on to the item 7, which is oh yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, John? This was brought up a couple of months ago, I think, about the redistricting resolution, independent redistricting resolution. How about if you give us an update and bring us up to speed on the whole thing?
Yeah. So as with everything, there's been challenges with the pandemic, but the local law amending the county charter is on the agenda for the next legislative session. I know I've been looking at a lot of letters to the editor in support of fair and independent citizen-led redistricting. And I know I've been taking part in a petition drive, and I've been hearing from a lot of folks how important it is that our districts are drawn in a way to increase not only equity in the way the county is run, but also in creating districts that are fair and representative of various communities. And again, just to reiterate this, we had Dustin Zarni, our Board of Elections, one of our Board of Elections commissioners, come and give us quite a bit of background on this. But the goal here is to move towards a method of redistricting that currently it is comprised of 2 political positions, both of our Board of Election commissioners. It is representatives from the majority and minority parties in the county legislature, a representative of the county executive. And so this is a 6-person board that purely political in nature. While not all hold elected office, this is a process that, whether or not it allows politicians to draw their own maps, what we are proposing is a new model which would draft a randomly chosen citizen board, who the first method or the first thing that on their agenda is to determine what a fair district is, whether that is something that is compact and close to a circle or a square so that it's a simpler district, or it may be one that combines certain communities of interest. I know one of the biggest things that brought me to bring this resolution to the board is when we look at the way Manlius has been changing and growing. I know our legislative district is one of the largest in the county. And if you look to other areas with similar makeups to Manlius, such as DeWitt, you have a town that is broken up into 4 different districts. On the north side of the city alone, there's, I think, one or two block area that has 5 different county legislative districts. I've heard some terrible horror stories of people who try to reach their representative and they have to go through a community organization who looks at a map to connect them to their representative. And so moving forward, this is definitely something that will allow people to take a greater part in government, and it will amend the charter to make sure that moving forward, this new process is part of the way we do it. It should be long lasting, and it'll allow the charter will then have it such that every time we do this, every 10 years, a new board of citizens will be drafted to help draw these maps. And each time they'll be able to decide what is fair and relevant, which, really increases our ability to move and change with, changes in demographics and quite honestly, changes in technology, the way people are living. And I just think moving forward, this is a really evergreen way to make sure that our maps are fair and drawn by the citizens.
John, let me real quick, because I know we were trying to reach out to Kevin Holmquist and Dave Knapp and Tim. I think you talked to him as well. In fact, this is how far back we go, because when I first reached out to him, no one had brought this to his attention, as you recall. And I think Chris Ryan was going to, and I think their legislative session isn't until June sometime, right? If I'm not mistaken. I mean, this, his concern at that time, of course, was they were dealing with the health and safety issues of the COVID and of course their financial concerns such as the $50 million revenue shortfall that they're dealing with because of the sales tax and so on. So since then, it will be presented at the county legislature session.
Yes, it is. Give me 1 second. I have it here. It is on the agenda for the meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd.
So this resolution, where did I put it? This is mainly just encouraging them to consider this independent civilian committee. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, as in the agenda, a local law amending section 207 of the Onondaga County Charter to revise the Onondaga County Reapportionment Commission to ensure a nonpartisan, fair, and objective process by which the Onondaga County legislative districts are reapportioned.
Okay, so this doesn't do anything except ask them to consider that resolution.
The law, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our resolution is to ask them to consider that, exactly.
I asked, and I'm sure you talked to Kevin, I asked his part on this along with the chairman and who's also in the town of Manlius legislator and Tim Burtis. And I think he shared this with you. He felt that the current redistricting plan has been fair. That the one that we're looking at tonight is an unproven program, and he feels that they would follow the same independent plan that the governor uses for the state, which is what we use currently in the county. So, I mean, I personally, I sort of put my faith in the county legislators as far as a proven redistricting plan that they have. But I'm just sharing my thoughts and discussions with Kevin. So.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know exactly which model this uses, but in places where this has been enacted, voter participation has been increased by as much as maybe 50% in some places. As far as the fairness of the current system, I completely agree with a lot of folks that 6 people from political appointments and elected officials, while this particular people may be technically nonpartisan, I don't agree with the notion that it is nonpartisan. Fair, absolutely. I'm not trying to say that the 6 people that are going to be drawing these maps are doing anything untoward. However, I know something that I've heard is if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I disagree with that sentiment. I think if you have a better way to do something, you should absolutely try to do it in a better way, especially one that engages more of the citizenry and gives people more of a voice in their government.
Okay. Yes, Elaine, you're muted.
Hi. So I just wanted to add too, because I live in there's only 3 areas in Manlius for county representatives, and I live in one of the neighborhoods that have a different county ledge representative. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is my district. So I'm in with Pompey, Lafayette, Fabius, which includes portions of DeWitt, Syracuse, and Manlius, and just like that tiny bit of Manlius. And I just, I don't feel representative because I feel like I'm kind of out of the town. I don't know if a citizen-led independent redistricting would fix that, but I feel like we definitely need, it shouldn't be partisan. It shouldn't be the people who are elected shouldn't pick the districts. And I also want to add too that the city of Syracuse did have this on their ballot last year, and the voters did approve it by 76%. So
that's not surprising, but I believe it's the election department, that actually ends up forming that, where that one little piece gets the part of Manlius there, just like I was asking, why is it, Tim Burtis is on one side of Fay Lane and Manoa, and Kevin's on the other side. And that's actually the election process. It's not really the committee that puts that together.
Yeah, the committee does use the pre-existing election districts. And so you do fall into these areas where certain election districts aren't drawn in the best way. And what this will allow is for that a larger conversation to happen around how to make the best map given the election districts that exist. So for example, that portion of the village of Manoa that ends up in a different legislative district, you could work, you could trade different districts around, but that would be up to the citizen-led board to decide what it is to be fair and how to apportion those, those edge cases.
Okay.
Hi, it's Heather. So for example, we'll use the new data from the census to redraw our maps, right? So we're going to be getting a whole slew of new information about where people are. So this redrawing process needs to happen. And the question in front of our board is, do we support the old system, or are we looking for a citizen-led commission versus a political appointee commission? If that's the case, then I believe it's the citizen-led commission is one of the strongest opportunities we have to remind people that the power for deciding, deciding what our revenue supports, it's in their hands. It's one of the first steps we can take to remind people. I mean, having just gone through watching the grievance process through assessments, we have such a low level of understanding about what we have control over. And I'd like to be able to say to my neighbors, we supported a move to make sure that this wasn't a political process. Then we look at how we actually are laid out and how we're organized. It wasn't about who's controlling the county ledge, who had the greater voice. And I would say that regardless of who is in power of the county ledge.
Just one
question,
other
John.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand why this would be a resolution instead of a memorandum to the legislature. I have concerns with it, certainly, because I think it takes offense to the way it's done now and the Onondaga County Charter, which has been tried and tested, and a commission is identified, whereas in this resolution, it doesn't address who these people are or how they would be selected for a commission. So, you know, that it's so vague, whereas
so
the charter for the county, it explicitly lies out how this process is done. Yeah, I'm sure you've read it. And also, it's my understanding that there's a minimum legal fee of $400,000, whereas when the county administers the redistricting, you know, that's all part of the county funds. So anyway, I still don't understand why it's a resolution and not a memorandum. And I don't think it represents all of the people of Manlius. So, and I also would like to have the opportunity, I know earlier in the year before all of this pandemic started, we're going to offer the 3 legislators to come before the board and, you know, be able to have them have the opportunity to talk about this and answer any specific questions. So I'm very uncomfortable putting this through as a resolution.
And I did, you know, I spoke with Kevin about this, and we definitely disagreed on certain areas. But part of the reason that this, is happening right now is because this is a once every 10-year process.
Right.
And so I understand that there are important things to be done, but it is my opinion, and I believe the opinion of many people, that when it comes to how our government is comprised, and possibly making that something that is more fair and equitable, it would be a shame to let 10 years of possible progress, or better districts, or more fair governments, or however you'd like to say it, to pass by because of the current circumstances. I know we've been able to get quite a few other things done that may not be the most important thing, during the pandemic. And I think this is, I know for me personally, this exactly is one of the reasons, I am here submitting this for everyone to vote on, because, this is something that will, and the charter change is fully detailed in the county agenda. And I will say that 15 of our 17 legislators in the county did sign a pledge supporting fair redistricting. And what I will say is there would have been no reason to urge the legislators to sign a pledge and pledge something in an election year, if the goal was to keep the process exactly as it is, exactly the same. And I think of the 15, anybody that was opposed also signed the resolution. So this is something that is incredibly popular with folks. Almost every single vote cast for a county legislative candidate in 2019 was for a candidate who was in support of fair redistricting, who signed that pledge, who was given that pledge and signed it and submitted it. So I completely understand concerns or any disagreements. But I do think this is something that is incredibly important. I know DeWitt has passed this resolution. I know the city is strongly in favor of independent redistricting. And so that's why I have brought this resolution.
Well, and I like the fact that in the county redistricting program, they have the opportunity for a public hearing after these districts are appointed, and then they can get the input from the public with those. So whereas in the resolution, there's no such material in regard to how the results would be presented to the public.
So the charter change would still have the requirement for public hearings. And one of the things here is when you have a board comprised of 14 citizens, as opposed to 6 people that are, ingrained in the political process, you'll be bringing in hopefully professors and engineers and scientists and teachers and all these other things. And I would hope that with a board comprised of 14 people who are outside of the political process, public hearings conducted by those folks should be bringing in so many more people who maybe don't know who their legislator is or don't know that there is a county legislator. I mean, just, as we see, compositions of boards change and different networks are coming in and becoming more politically involved. This would really open up the process and bring even more people in, especially if it's a prominent professor who's there, or, whoever it may be, who could tap different networks and get people really interested. And as someone who had, very in-depth involvement with helping people across the county understand who their legislator is, I talked to no fewer than 100 or more people who said they didn't know who their legislator was. They didn't know there was a county legislator. And when shown the map, just flabbergasted with the way the North Side looks, with the way DeWitt looks, with even the way Camillus looks. And, to Elaine's credit, where her district is, how that line is drawn, this is something that when you explain to somebody in Tully that they have the same legislator as someone who is on the east side of the city and on the south side of Manlius, even that doesn't make sense to them. And so, this resolution is in support of the amendment that 15 of the 7 legislators, while they didn't pledge to support that particular amendment, they pledged to support fair redistricting. And I would not ask anyone to sign a pledge in an election year to support the status quo. So that would be my argument. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy.
That's good.
So, and to be clear, our county legislator, Kevin Holmquist, did sign that pledge.
Did sign the pledge.
But when asked about this particular concept of a citizen-led fair redistricting proposal, demurred.
When I had the conversation with him, he had not seen the legislation yet.
Okay.
I think that there's a couple of things for me that strike me as important about this, and I'm not nearly as much of an expert as John and Elaine are on this issue. But
This is John Solar, if you will.
Yeah, I'm Solar Kate. John is fair redistricting John. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well, but it's just as important. But I think that even pretty recently, I had someone ask me who my representative was, and I was talking to them about who their representative was, and we pulled up the map, and I just couldn't believe I saw like the state senate, and I'm looking at the districts around the state, and I wouldn't want people that are diehard Democrats drawing these lines and favoring districts that would not give my Republican counterparts a fair shot at representing their community, just as much as I wouldn't want it to go the other way. And so when I see maps that look like that, they were drawn for the sole purpose of making it so that certain people of certain political parties could win elections more easily. And then we're in charge.
If I can interrupt you for a second.
Please, John.
To be fair, when the maps were drawn, many of the districts had, to be quite honest, Democratic enrollment advantages. And so this is actually, it's being supported by Chris Ryan. So we are actually saying, even though the districts may have been drawn in favor of one political party, our political party last time, we're actually pushing for a more fair and more equitable solution so that that doesn't happen. It would be better if when the maps are drawn, a district isn't labeled, red or blue. It should, if we draw these in a fair way, it'll be labeled as the makeup of a reasonable community, connected through, whatever it is, whether it's socioeconomic status, whether it's purely geography, whether it's, closer to the school districts. These districts will represent distinct portions of the community and allow them to elect a representative that represents them, as opposed to right now on the north side of the city, you have one of our most vibrant populations of new Americans who are looking to, access services or ask questions or even just have help in navigating the political process, who have 5 representatives. And what I can tell you is when the north side has a spaghetti dinner, I don't think you're regularly getting all 5 of those representatives there to listen to the issues and really hear them. So
Yeah,
you know,
that district never, I mean, it just shouldn't look like that. And John, I actually have a question for you as well. When one of the things that came up when I remember this issue was being discussed last year was that there are certain communities where your vote doesn't count as much because there's like 10,000 people in one area and like 20,000 people in another area.
To be fair, the districts, when they're drawn, they have to be within plus or minus a certain number of residents, plus or minus 500. So they are. So our charter does push for mathematically fair. But if you look at the, you know, the map is really is the storyteller there. While those districts are drawn at a time, they were all mathematically fair as far as how many residents live there. You know, but that's why this is such an important time to do it, is because with the new census data, we're going to know more about everybody and we're going to be able to draw more fair maps, you know, that are most importantly not looking at political party, but at what each community represents and how we can group those people in equitable ways.
Okay.
Well, I think we've covered this really well.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're on the board and can help us to navigate this critical issue. And your insight is very, very valuable. So I appreciate you leading the charge on this. Thank you.
We're yes. Now that the lines have been drawn, we can. Sorry about that. Why don't we vote on this? And if you're ready to make a motion, John.
Yeah. So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to support, or I don't know how to phrase that, on the independent redistricting resolution.
Yeah, right, Tim. That's good. Okay.
May I second that?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All opposed. Carried. Okay, very good.
I have great faith in our county government.
Good.
I don't. I have faith in the citizens of our community.
Great discussions here, everyone. This is good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, John. I guess 2 months ago we maybe could have gotten this done. I don't know. All right, we will move on now to the Barton-Judas draft agreement. That I think Sarah, you have been working diligently with Tim on this, as well as Barton-Judas. So, do you want to give who would like to give a presentation on it?
I'll give a brief intro and then we go from there. So for anybody listening, we did issue an RFP back before the coronavirus to provide engineering services for a specific project, which was the possibility of a water district. That's an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Sullivan to run water along Salt Springs Road. We received responses. We actually received 4 responses. We deliberated on the responses. We made a selection of Barton and LaJudas. Barton and LaJudas then submitted a draft agreement, which we went back and forth with a few amendments on, which was not finalized until today. So I do apologize to council members that you didn't get the revised version until this afternoon. But we do feel that the questions that everybody had were adequately addressed and that it would be appropriate to vote on this agreement today. So now I'll turn it over to Tim.
Okay, you're up, Tim.
Yeah, I've reviewed it. Sarah has done most of the work on this. She's done a fantastic job with clarifying some issues with Barton LaJudas. So I think we have enough information between the emails that have been sent back and forth, the answers to the questions that Sarah raised, and the changes to the contract, that I'm comfortable proceeding with approving the contract. And you can authorize the supervisor to sign it. So from a legal standpoint, from a legal review standpoint, I'm comfortable with it.
So I would like to make a motion to authorize the
But Tim, I have a question, and Sarah, maybe I didn't get the last one, revised edition. So forgive me, but there was one, under 201A, regard to, the engineer's charges for subcontracted services shall be invoiced at cost plus 10%. So does this exceed the original amount, Tim? Or-
Thank you for that. That was one of the things that we cleaned up in the.
Oh, good. Okay, then I don't, okay. Good. So is that out of there then?
The only engineers plus 10% was that additional work if we asked for it after the set bid amount. If you recall, there were some additional hours if we wanted just consultation time.
Right.
Apply to that, but not to the bid price.
So there would be no additional cost, Karen, unless we approve that additional cost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right, okay.
So that would be the part, the 3.01 part would be additional
services,
right? By there, but not to the set price part at the 201 part.
And these will be invoiced on a monthly basis?
Correct.
Assuming. And then, Sarah, the portion that the town of Sullivan is participating in, how is that being taken care of? Are
You
they?
anticipated my motion, so I was going to propose that we authorize the supervisor to sign the contract contingent on Sullivan also agreeing.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
So you made a motion then, Sarah? Oh, Jen?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I again will have to recuse myself, I believe, on this as well, Tim. As far as I can sign it, but I can't vote on it, I think. Because again, my son he's still working there. He came back to work this week. So, but it has been approved. And so we're good to go with the contract. Very good.
Contingent.
Yeah, contingent, right. So,
thank you.
All right, very good. Nice work on that. Next is the Toshiba lease and maintenance agreement. I think, Ann, you sent all that out, right?
Deferred compensation is first.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I went right over it. Yeah, go ahead. Ann, you want to give a brief overview on that, or? I think we're all pretty understanding of what's going on, but why don't you run it?
Sure. As the board members know, I did send an email earlier this week giving you some background on the deferred compensation plan and potential extension. The deferred compensation plan is a voluntary retirement savings plan for employees of the town of Manlius. Pursuant to the rules and regulations of the New York State Deferred Compensation Board, we're required to seek competitive bids for that plan every 5 years. We, in the current stable value fund with Lincoln Financial, expires on May 28th. We did start this process in March, and then as we all know, things changed drastically. So that sort of changed our process and, interrupted the process, the vendors, etc. So we do, according to the deferred compensation plan, we are allowed to extend by 1 year this plan. It would be a recommendation to do that so that then we can properly go out to bid the beginning of 2021 for a new 5-year term.
Yeah, it gives us time, and there's really not a big, change. I mean, it's the same companies that we looked at the last time, I believe, but come January, we'll do the RFP, start all over again. It's usually 3 or 4. So we just need a motion to continue, I believe, the 457, right?
I'll make a motion to delay the RFP process for the retirement plan until next year.
Okay. Second. Okay, Heather, second. All in favor?
Wait, Anne, it looks like Anne's trying to say
Oh,
something.
Ann, go ahead.
Could we just amend that motion to extend the current plan for a 1-year period?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to extend the current plan for 1 year, and then at that time, do the RFP.
Thank you.
Heather, second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Other discussion? Okay, opposed? Carried. All right, very good, everyone. Now we can go on to the Toshiba lease agreement. Is that yours too, Ann?
I do not have that right in front of me here, but I do know that Kay was working with the Toshiba representative as well as a couple other vendors. And I believe that the lease, this is for the lease for the copiers for Town Hall. We have 2. It is, I believe, a 39-month lease, and the actual contract price is less than the current contract.
Right.
It is, I just want to add in, sorry, it's a 48-month.
40, okay.
So it is longer than last time.
Yep. Do we have a motion to renew?
I'll make a motion to renew the Toshiba Business Solutions contract for the 2 copiers at Town Hall.
Okay.
I'll second.
Of months, 48 months at $408 a month.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Excellent. Correspondence and new business. All right, Rob, I think you have something for us today, a couple items.
Yeah, actually, I guess first of all, Heather, I think you can kind of help me out with the first one there. That late last week, Heather and I actually met Ed up on Hale Road. We've had some concerns up there with parking on Hale Road. Trying to make sure I say John and Darcy's last name correct, Heather. I believe
Preisner.
Preisner, okay.
Yep.
So we were actually met with those great couple. I actually had a call this week from Art Hale also, who lives up just beyond him. I mean, there's not a lot of people that live on that road, but as you understand from our conversations, there's people that are, the kids doing some partying up there. I guess they've had some conversation with some of the homeowners up there. There's been some people trespassing up on Art Hale's barns, and they were messing around in his barn and beyond his barn. So he's got some serious concerns about that. They're looking to see if we can possibly do some no parking up there. Obviously, it would be a board decision. I was able to get out there today, just so you know, Heather and Ed, because obviously you 2 were out there with me. I measured from 173 in, and after my conversation with Art, it just basically brings it up around the bend where you can see down over the valley. It's about 1,430 feet. And we would have to sporadically put those no parking signs on either side of the road up through there if, in fact, the board would want to do something like that. I have not had any conversation with Mr. King or any of the other residents up on the other end of Hale Road at this point. So I don't know if you want to have some conversation with those, unless Heather, maybe you already had.
Yeah, I personally haven't spoken with the Kings, but I am aware that both the Peters and the Kings are supportive of the measure, as I understand it, and that can be confirmed, and we can certainly reach out to them. But it's a small, tight-knit group of neighbors, and so they're sort of aligned, as I understand, in their frustration and their interest in addressing this.
I guess at this point, Heather, I think this would be a conversation, obviously, for Tim. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that has to go to public hearing, Tim, on that for no parking.
Just in time, Tim.
Yeah, Tim. Sorry about that.
Did you catch that?
I just the no parking on Hale Road. Obviously, you heard part of the conversation there.
Yeah.
I believe it has to go to public hearing. We have to have a public hearing on the no parking signs.
Yep. It's got to be an amendment to the local law.
Yep. And again, Tim, it's roughly 1,430 feet, the lower half of 173 in at this point. But again, I know Heather had some conversations up above. I don't know if we want to do the whole complete road. Obviously, I can get the whole measurement on the road. We have it on our inventory anyway. But we would have to do that and probably send out the notices in the area if that's something that the board would want to,
You mind if
yeah, go ahead, Heather.
Do you
Go
mind if I
ahead.
just share the experience of understanding what's going on? So Hale and Palmer sort of have a crest and have a beautiful view of the lake and, you know, the beautiful fields there. And
the horses.
Yes. And so there are no parking signs that often get, but you know, Rob has a tricky solution for making sure they are not actually removed or stolen by people, which he will not talk about, but he has a way to sort of try to mitigate that. But there are no parking signs along there. And so people, and also our wonderful team at the police department, you know, patrol there when they need to try, sort of mitigate the issues as well. But there's littering and there's loitering and underage drinking, based on the littering and the people that are there. And the ticketing process is something that the police go through already. But Hale Road is almost like where people are starting to go where there aren't no parking signs. And there's a dip in the road that you could imagine people are not going to necessarily park in because it would be an awkward place to park and then walk up the hill, I guess. I don't know. But Rob, I would leave the recommendations about exactly where to place the signs to Rob's team. But the residents are interested in sort of extending the no parking that is already on Palmer so that it really doesn't, the problem doesn't literally just roll down the hill. That's what's happening now.
Rob, is this a problem that has started this season? Because I don't remember having this type of episode before up there. And why I'm asking is there's a similar, as you know, when Chief knows, up at Three Falls Woods on Sweet Road. And of course, that's a county road, but there's some residents up there that also are looking for signs, and it has never been a problem before, Heather. It's the pandemic, the kids, they don't have a place to go. They, you know, they're not in school celebrating the end of their graduation. And so
I think that
history there.
Yeah, I think that there is some history there beyond this year from what we understand from the Preisners.
Yeah, Palmer Road, first of all, Karen, has been posted for several years.
Yeah,
that's actually been in the code.
Right.
But I think to Heather's point, I think what's happening, and to your point, obviously with the COVID, a lot of it is kind of turned to, you can't park on Palmer Road, so it's kind of rotated over to Hale Road at this point.
Right.
With my conversation with Art, even during the 4th of July period, he's had people literally, he was out in his front yard with his wife a year or so ago, and people literally were parking along the road in front of his house. He couldn't even, view the fireworks from there because people were actually pulling up their lawn chairs and actually putting them in his yard. So, it is a beautiful view up there. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's more of something according, like what Heather's, the people that we spoke with, it's becoming something more of a frequent thing than ever has before.
Okay.
With the chief, do you think we should, Chief Grohl, do you want to offer any perspective on this as well?
Yeah, I know the police have been up there, right, Chief?
Yeah, we've spent quite a bit of time up there, actually, more than I would like to say, and we're getting a lot of pushback from a lot of people. And I think a lot of this it's always been a popular spot, but I think now with social media as well as the virus, it's just amplified.
Yeah.
So, instead of putting up no parking based on today's environment, I'm not sure if you would consider tomorrow's environment. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the same. But we've had a lot of problems up there, without a doubt.
Well, do you think the no stopping signs would be the answer, Chief, or?
Well, there's no parking, as Rob just mentioned, there's no parking on Palmer, and they still park there.
Yeah.
And then when we give them a ticket, I just get a bunch of hate mail.
But you are able to ticket because you have that sign.
Once the local law is passed, we can enforce it.
Okay. So if we're interested in this, then we need to set a public hearing. Is that correct? And a resolution of some amendment to the resolution.
Yeah, so Allison, where are we on the agenda? What week would we be looking at to do this?
Not the next one.
I just, Tim, do we have to have a draft ready?
Yeah,
Or we can,
if it's not going to be the next one, give me an opportunity to draft the local law for the next meeting, and then you could set the date for the public hearing at that meeting for the meeting after.
That would be good. Yeah. So which
would that work, Heather?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's important for the residents that are all along Hale to, have enough time to sort of get ready and be present, and also, and for, of course, for us to give the information to the neighbors around during this time. You send out those letters, and also we can spread the word, because I understand and that this is sort of culturally, something about where people go, but we're lucky to have things like the Paladinos Heritage Hill and other places that legally give people an opportunity to take advantage of the views versus busting in on people's private property.
Yeah. All right. So we don't need to do anything tonight then, I don't believe. Correct?
So as soon as we, so we will work on drafting the local law and we'll get it scheduled for a public hearing, and it probably won't be June 10th, but rather the end of June.
24th, who knows if we'll be grouping by then. Phase 4.
I hope so. Ed. I'm tired of the word Zoom.
It's better than WebEx, I'll tell you. So, all right, very good.
The only other thing I wanted to mention, Ed, is I had a meeting today with the State Highway Superintendents Association, and just to kind of bring the board up to date, obviously with our CHIPS funding, there's been some serious concern across the state to all highway superintendents that the funding, the later this goes, we normally by now we've already received a letter telling us what we're going to get for funding. It has been passed by the state legislator, but at this point, obviously everything's on hold. Our concerns are for every municipality across the board, not necessarily just us, but when you get to the situation where you get later in the season and your vendors and your subcontractors that you normally work with are going to get bombarded with everyone trying to do something at the same time. And we have such a short season for constructions as it is. So we're concerned about losing, the funding, number one, and number two, having enough time to use that funding in the course of this year. So I've been asked, actually, we've reached out already to Senator Kennedy's office, who's the DOT chair. And also I reached out today, just a quick conversation with Assemblyman Magnarelli. And I emailed him, and hopefully we'll get something back, and maybe they can push it along a little bit quicker. I know everyone's, been in limbo basically since the COVID virus has started. So we're just trying to let everyone know, we need to make sure we're going to get that funding. We certainly don't want to do, more than what we can as far as funding would provide. So none of us want to be put in that position, nor would the board want to be put in that position. So a lot of disappointment, I think, a lot of frustration from most of the guys that I spoke with today. But hopefully, if there's anything that you guys can do, talking with our legislators, maybe we can just push that forward a little bit further, a little quicker, to get them to understand, where we are in the process. So I guess that would be the only thing I would ask you guys, if you could help me out on that.
Yeah, I did an email from Association of Towns, some legal counsel there, and of course, the first thing I read, and I didn't read the whole thing, was you need to reach out to your legislators on this budget and items. And so I'll share all that with everyone. And we need to just, unfortunately for us, we only have an assemblyman, we don't have. So poor Hale is getting bombarded right now. So,
well, again, Ed, it does affect every highway department. It's not just necessarily the town, so I think that's the important part to get across. We're lucky enough, to have a decent tax base, but where you have a lot of really small municipalities, that's all they have for funding. So I think that's really where they were headed with all of that today. So,
and we have a supervisor's Zoom again. Sorry, Karen, tomorrow, and I'll be forwarding a lot of this information to them so we can have discussion and they can reach out to their representatives as well.
Great, I
Thanks,
appreciate
Doug.
it. That's all I have, guys.
Okay, Randy's not here, but Doug, did he have anything? Do you have anything over?
Yeah, I've got a few things, Ed. I have been in touch with Randy's group, and things are picking up over there. As you know, we spoke with Sarah and I spoke late last week with you, Ed. Not necessarily a lot of new housing starts, but the typical spring activity, you know, decks, pools, remodeling type activity, some housing starts, but not a lot. Planning board activities up. There may be up to 5 items on our agenda coming up here next week. We will be, tomorrow, we'll be conducting the next round of sampling at the landfill. That's done in conjunction with the town of DeWitt. So we've been able to do some cost savings there. So the sampling team will start in the DeWitt landfill, 10 o'clock tomorrow. They'll go over to Manlius, and we should be able to get that quarterly round of sampling done. We've been working with Rob on a lot of the road programs and a lot of the things that come up in the springtime. One of the things that we're working on right now that I forwarded to Rob today is along North Manlius Road. We've got an area where we have to do a repair that we've been keeping our eyes on for a couple of years, but the repairs will require Army Corps and DEC approval to do some work in Limestone Creek. So Rob's got all that information. We'll review that. We'll go through the secret process and apply for the proper permits. We've been talking about, yeah.
What exactly is it that you're referring to? What needs to be done?
Along North Manlius Road, just about halfway down to Saintsville, there's an oxbow in the Limestone Creek that has started to erode part of North Manlius Road away. So we've had our eye on that for a couple of years. So basically what we're proposing to do there is go in and put some gabion stone, some big riprap in to secure the road. But that has to be done in conjunction with a permit with the Army Corps of Engineers and the New York State DEC. And
Gotcha.
they'll require that we put that in. We may even incorporate, some areas for habitat for fish when we do that, inherent to what we're doing.
All right, great.
On the railroad
Yeah.
tracks, you're saying, Doug? Is it Saintsville Road along the railroad tracks?
No, it's on North Manlius on the south end.
And it would be that end. You confusing the Saintsville end. It turns to Saintsville at the curve, but it's on that shorter end.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, and this is for Caitlin, but really for everyone, I was lucky enough to go with Rob to check out Hale Road, but then we also were nearby a lot of the sites that where residents will sort of bring up issues related to flooding or concerns. And Rob was able to take me around physically and show me the topography and also some of the work that's been done over the years by the town. So thank you for that, Rob. And I know that he's willing to sort of have ride-alongs, just like Chief Curl's team by us. And I think we should take advantage of it this summer. And I said, what did I say to you, Rob, in the car? I said, Caitlin would be all over this.
I was just giving a tour the other day. I had a friend and I was like explaining and that is where we're proposing to do a zone change. And that's where and I was like, oh my God, I'm a nerd. I'm such a big nerd and I'm so into all of it. It's so exciting. So I would super be down for that. Sign me up.
So it's great.
I'd be happy to participate in that. We've done that with a lot of the planning board members. Just where some of the environmental issues are in the town, some of the drainage issues, some of the road issues, to wrap everything all together.
I am very interested in Limestone Creek. And I just had a constituent message me and then subsequently email me that lives in Fayetteville that wants to know more about the maintenance of the health of Limestone Creek, clearing out the big trees that have fallen in there. So when you said Limestone Creek, my ears perked up. I was like, what about Limestone Creek?
Well, I would say one of the things that we can do when when it's safe to and the rest of it, I mean, we go to conferences and we educate ourselves in other ways and we read things, but I think field trips and little field expeditions with the people who are in the field, you know, Doug and Rob and everybody is really important for us, the same way that I know Elaine did the Citizens Police Academy training. And you know, I just wanted to thank you all for your partnership in that way. But I think summer is a great time to, when we're not interrupting and taking time away from the work that actually needs to get done. Like, for example, I know we've talked about the cover for the salt storage, but as I was driving, I was like, those things are huge. I can understand why it's $50,000. You know, but we need that kind of hands-on understanding. And so thank you both.
The other thing that we've done, and Anne has done this with us, for anybody who would like, you know, we could tour any of the infrastructure around town, right? So we've taken tours to the different pump stations for sewage.
Yeah.
And tours to, you know, the water department. We could go to a substation, you know, through our firm, we have access to all those type of things. So
great. I'm ready for that kind of summer camp. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't participate in playground anymore, unfortunately, but we can get a sewage tour. So
there you go.
Yeah,
so we can set that up. We've been talking about the MS4 activity. Tomorrow at noon, we will have a public outreach through a Zoom through Allison's office. We've had it advertised on our website. We really haven't had a lot of input. So we'll see what we have tomorrow. We'll go over some brief items. Usually when we do this on an annual basis, some years we have a half hour worth of comments. Sometimes we have no comment. One last thing is, Caitlin, I will be sending you tomorrow an electronic copy of an RFP that we have used in several communities for power purchase agreements for solar. I understand that you and Ed Theobald had a discussion with Ed Mikolenko earlier this week, and you know, Ed said, let's get that over to you so that we can move forward with whatever activities that you want.
This would be the RFP to develop the landfill project.
What we have and what has been delivered to the town of Manlius in the past is the power purchase agreement with the town of DeWitt. So I'll send that over to you. Some of that information could be used with a community solar, but it's what was used in DeWitt. Ed said that you know, once again, you and Ed had spoken to him, and that was something that you requested. So
yeah, that would be great.
Being put into an electronic form, and we'll send that over tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So so yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to tour any of those facilities, just let me know. You know, shoot me a note, and you know, we can set that up within a day or two, and but would be happy to go around and show you, you know, what goes on in the town, and you know, what goes into a lot of the thought process that we do moving forward in the town of Manlius.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug. That's a lot of good information there.
I'll never forget Mayor Donovan's tour he gave me, Ed, you'll appreciate, of Butternut Creek.
Was that in the helicopter, or was that?
Oh, well, no, it was on foot.
Oh, okay.
Got our feet wet.
Oh boy. Yeah. Very
It was
good.
great.
Tim, do you have anything for us tonight?
No, nothing.
Okay. All right. Allison?
I do not, and I received a lot of feedback from most board members that our meetings were very long, so I'm going to defer my time to Anne.
Chief, you're up then.
Okay, just a couple items. All of our people remain healthy, which is a great thing. We're approaching our phase 2 plan on reopening, and we pretty much have all of our employees back in the office now, with the exception of one. We have one that's still working remotely, so but plan to bring that person back pretty soon. Happy to report that the town residents are doing an outstanding job with all these distancing measures and other mask suggestions. And thank goodness, because if you read all of the executive orders that are coming out from all the various government organizations, it's very confusing and very difficult to enforce. But So far, we haven't had an issue with that. We're at the end of our background investigation for the new employee that we're looking at, the transfer employee that has 10 years experience. I think he has one more hurdle to overcome, and I'll be bringing a name and hopefully get a recommendation for hire on him. And lastly, the Village of Manlius renovation project to our building continues. I'm happy to say that we have warmer temperatures because we still have no heat, but now we're dealing with air conditioning issues. But thank goodness the town bought numerous portable air conditioners that we have strategically placed throughout the building. So at least we're able to cool the building down a little bit, so it's somewhat tolerable. And related to that, I'm going forward with the getting the final figures on ordering the trailer that will relocate to the exterior of the building during the major portions of the renovation project. I'll have some final figures on that, hopefully next meeting. And then lastly, the Village of Manlius, apparently there were some unforeseen expenditures on some of the work that needs to be done. And I've been working with the mayor and town supervisor on who's going to pay for that. But I did get a bill from our IT department on those unforeseen expenditures, and it's pretty high. So unfortunately, $17,000.
Okay.
So I know the town supervisor is working on that. He's aware of it. I forwarded it to him, and he'll be having that conversation with the village mayor. Apparently they bid for this project, but nobody looked into the ceiling to identify these wires that are apparently going to be obstructing the new ventilation system. And that's where the 17 grand comes from. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Village's last board meeting, I was sort of texting back and forth with them, and as you know, Chief, we're working on having another meeting with them, and now probably a good thing we held off because this is an added feature, you know, that we're going to have to discuss and see how this is going to be paid. And I think this is where we'll be talking with you, Tim, as far as lease agreements and responsibilities of a tenant and a landlord, so. But okay, thanks, Chief. You're good with nothing else you had there, right? No, you didn't have transfers or something you had mentioned, or is that something you're not?
We do have two candidates that approached us for transfers. A lot of municipalities are shutting down.
Yeah.
So we do have two folks that wanted to move to the town of Manlius because really of our reputation.
Okay.
But one, we're probably not going to be able to finish his background before he's offered a job at another municipality that are searching for people. And then there's another individual that is also a transfer that needs to, that we're going to look at. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, excellent. All right, Ann, you're up. You have a couple of items here that we need to discuss with the trash and brush contract update and the retirement resolution.
Sure. Trash and brush contract. The current trash and brush contract with Syracuse Haulers was for the years 2017 through 2019. On October 26th of 2019, the town board opted to extend the contract for one of the 1-year extensions that is allowed under the contract. We do have the option at this point to extend for the final year of the 2-year extension or go out to bid for a new contract. So if the board could talk about this and consider maybe for a future meeting, maybe in June, whether you want to go out to bid for a new contract or extend for the one final year. As I explained, it would be nice if you're going to go out to bid to do that sooner rather than later. Obviously, it's a lengthy process, and we'd like to have those numbers for budget time in the fall.
And
I just want to comment on that.
For us, right?
Pardon me?
You have the numbers of what the renewed number would be if we extend.
I can get you that information. I'll email that to all of you.
Okay, very good. Sarah, go ahead.
I just want to report to everybody that before we renewed the last time, I did meet with Sharon and got a printout of all the complaints and investigated the different issues that we've had with the trash and brush service, and determined that while there were some complaints, that they were primarily regarding missed pickups, and that, you know, there wasn't actually a service issue, and that I would support taking advantage of this opportunity to get a 5th year and then go out to bid when the world is more conducive to that.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, one of the things that has helped us is, of course, we haven't since the COVID, but Sharon and I would meet with Rocco and Steve pretty much on a quarterly basis, just to look at any issues that Sharon was keeping track of. And they would, you know, make sure things were corrected or just made aware of so they could correct them. And many times they were corrected before we even discussed them, because there were issues that, you know, Sharon was all over, and she did a great job following up with the residents. And she continues to do so. But thank you for that.
I would definitely support the extended year. You know, we've worked under contract with Syracuse Haulers, and I think they've done an outstanding job. They're very, very accessible. They will correct an error that is made, but they're always right there. So I think they've done an outstanding job. And this has not been an easy season for them. But when you call them on the phone, they're just as kind and nice as they can be.
Yeah, they really hustled with this brush situation.
Indeed, they did. They still are. I spoke with them yesterday.
Yeah, they doubled up. No doubt about that.
Indeed, yes. And more people have done their landscaping themselves. So,
but I think we should probably get a chance to everyone look at that 1-year extension, you know, so that we could maybe address that at the next board meeting, if that would make sense to everyone. Okay, all right. And retirement resolution.
Yes, before you have what's called a standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials. Elected and appointed officials that are members of the New York State retirement system and that do not participate in a timekeeping system, like I referenced would be paychecks for us. They don't clock in and clock out. They're required to keep a 3-month log at the beginning of a new term, and that is used to calculate the average number of days worked per month, and then that is what gets reported on the monthly retirement report to the state. So this is a standard resolution that we would do every year if we have, you know, someone that has been newly elected or appointed. And then it does get filed with New York State. We have to file it on our website. We also post it on our board. So this would just require a resolution adopting the standard workday and reporting resolution.
Do we need to make a motion on that now, or do we? We do. Okay. All right. So we need a motion to accept the retirement resolution.
yes, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to support the retirement resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ann. Anything else, Ann? All right. All right, we're at the town board. Okay, good. Why don't we start out with you, Sarah, since you're right on the list here. Bring us up to date on the planning process committee update.
Okay, so the planning process committee, which is a subcommittee of the board, is looking at streamlining the process by which an applicant can get a special use permit. And I sent around a little outline of what we were thinking of, but I'm just realizing I'm not sure I actually sent it. Did everybody get that? Like last week?
I think I forwarded, Karen, I think I forwarded on.
Right. Heather's nodding. Okay, so I thought it was like, it seems so long ago. I think it was.
I know.
But
Sarah, can you tell me what was it called?
Planning process committee update.
Thank you.
It's a recommendation for the streamlining the zoning. Well, there's a special use amendment to the town zoning special use permit. I think
So
that's
basically, I consulted, so the planning process committee currently consists of Jamie, Allison, and myself, Jamie Sutphin. We met with Tim by chance because this issue of the special permit had come up, and it had been something that we had talked about in the committee previously. And now the timing just seems like the right time to look at streamlining. So I spoke with Joe Lupia, who's also a member of the committee, but wasn't at the meeting that Tim was at, and looped him in. Joe Lupia is the chair of the planning board. He was very supportive and says that the planning board is up for this added responsibility, and that they would be willing to accept the responsibility should the board determine that we would want to give this to them. Tim gave me a voluminous legal paper to read, which was very interesting. I have also become a nerd. And so I made up these proposed guidelines that we could authorize the planning board to give a special use permit under these conditions. We have to provide the conditions, and then we set the planning board free to do it. It seems extremely integral to the site plan approval that they're doing anyway. And the plan, and as we saw, today's session was a zoning change, which is different, but the solar arrays are a special use permit. So this would basically let the applicant out of having to come back to us twice. They could do it all in one activity. And we would still have input as a resident, but the planning board would have the decision. And that's what I need you guys to think about, is the planning board would have authority to grant the special use permit. The special use permit can only be granted in a zoning area that the board has already determined this is a permitted use. So that's the limitation we had, is if we don't want them to do a solar array in an area, don't make it a permitted use, and then they can't. The planning board can't override that. So that's the process that I would like to suggest. And if anybody has any questions, Tim or I could answer now, and then I'd like to put it in the queue for a local law would it be a local law and a public hearing?
Yes. That'd be great. Anybody have any other comments? Get a chance to look at it? I've looked at it.
I haven't found it. I can't find it. So can you send it to me again? Thank you.
How about we send it out to everybody, Ellison, and then it'll all be fresh in their minds when we go to discuss it.
Yes, I can do that.
Discuss it at the next meeting, Sarah?
I think Tim's going to provide a local law for us.
Okay.
Right, that'd be great.
For June 10th.
I don't know if it'll be, that's up to the agenda committee when we put it on.
The agenda committee.
8:56.
Okay, that's good.
So I don't think this is time sensitive, but it is something that we've actually been working on for over a year, and we'd like to bring it to resolution.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, this is overdue, to be honest with you. I think it's an excellent idea, but I want everyone to get a chance to look at the revisions of it. And how it's much more streamlined. I think that, and we do put a little more faith in the planning board for this, but they're a very qualified planning board. So, okay. Anything else, Sarah, that you have?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you and John have, no, it should be.
It was actually Heather.
Yeah, it should be Heather, right? And me. Okay. So, John, why don't you've sort of taken a lead on this with them, and why don't you bring us up to speed on this? It'd be great.
Yeah, so, just to get everybody up to speed, we have myself, Heather, and Ed. We have met with the 3GI Central New York Inland Port team. If everybody remembers that presentation, multiple presentations from months ago. And basically, what we're doing is, at the end of my section here, we'll be scheduling the public hearing for their zone change for the next meeting. And so what we've done in advance of that, this is a project that, from the first 10 minutes of the first presentation, we knew that this was enormous and incredibly complicated, and we know there's so many different stakeholders. So what we did, we had a meeting with them. We kind of discussed where we were at, what we needed from them. We talked to them about some of their current pain points, And so we came to the conclusion that, just scheduling a public hearing and, sending out a letter and hoping, some people show up wouldn't really be sufficient for the scope of this. And we know there's a history here where residents have pretty strong feelings about it. And so what we decided to do was kind of, among the board, split up local elected and community leaders to send a memo to. And this memo is not strictly in favor or opposed to the project. This is detailing the project, something that we've probably consumed over 2 hours of presentations for, and just explaining some of the pros and the cons and some of the major issues here. And so what we're hoping is that at that public hearing, not only are we going to be reaching out to the residents, I'm going to be working to get hopefully some press coverage on this so that we can have some assistance, not just sending out a letter, but also hopefully the Eagle Bulletin picking something up and helping explain to everybody the project so that we can get as many voices as possible at the table while we do this public hearing, so we can ensure, we're almost lucky that we've been doing these 2-week public hearings. This is a project that I think really deserves this kind of treatment because we want to hear from everybody because it's enormous and there's a lot to it. And so what we sent this memo out, which is available in the agenda, asking our local elected and community leaders to join us, send a representative, send a note explaining, their position on this. And this is also in the hopes that not only can they, ideally maybe bring some history to this, but if this project does move forward, they can help us navigate, and 3GI navigate some of the major hurdles that a project of this scope, brings up, quite honestly. And, this is a huge project. And so what we're hoping is that, and so if you're watching, please attend that meeting and have an opinion and read up on it. I'm going to be working to put out all the information that 3GI has given us through all of our various, emails and texts and Facebook. So, I do hope we have a really good attendance. At least I hope we get lots of letters. And I know we already have some of our some elected leaders who will be joining us, who are actually, excited to have this conversation. So I was just really happy that we were able to get some positive momentum on this. And again, I just, I know there were some concerns from the board. This memo and this push is not strictly in favor or opposed to the project. This is to expedite the process so that, it's, as to Sarah, what you were just talking about, speeding up the process of local government. This is just so that we can move this project along as quickly as possible. So if there's any questions.
And of course, John, now that we all know the Amazon is going in up at Clay, that's just puts more pressure on, moving the cargo and such. That it's just going to increase the traffic down here on North Central and Fremont Road. So I really think we need to get moving on this. So we'll see what happens.
So you, on June 10th, you already have a public hearing scheduled for 6:35. So you would be at 6:40 on June 10th.
Okay, so we haven't made the motion to schedule that though, right? So we need to do that tonight?
So okay. I will make a motion to schedule the public hearing for the 3GI Central New York Inland Project Zone Change request for June 10th at 6:40 p.m.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. All right, John, excellent. Well, do you have anything else while we're on at your?
Nope.
All right.
Yeah.
You were part of that.
Thoroughly done talking for the evening.
What's that? What's that, John?
I'm thoroughly done speaking for the evening.
Yeah, that's a couple of times tonight. That's good. So, Heather, why don't you continue? I know you had an item you wanted to share with us tonight, and
sure. Let me pull it up. So as liaison to the assessment department, I wanted to acknowledge our sole assessor, Patrick Duffy, who has served in this role since 2005. This is a couple minutes long, but I'll be fast. I wanted this in the record. And leads a dedicated team, including Kristen Bowes, assessment clerk, Jennifer Abbott, information aide, Christine Del Fuoco, assessment clerk, and Phil Murray, real property appraiser. And other communities have struggled to keep the assessment process on schedule during the COVID-19 crisis. And this team has worked very hard to keep things running smoothly and safely. The town appointed and onboarded two, as you all may know this, two new Board of Assessment Review members, Fred Lutzen and Celeste Greiner, who joined Arnold Poltenson ahead of this year's grievance process, which whose grievance day was yesterday, the 26th. Fred has extensive experience in arbitration, and Celeste knows how the local housing market works very well. And Arnie has knowledge about commercial real estate. You know, with Counselor Deer's help, the bar began hearing from residents grieving assessments and virtually. And they were interrupted by the power outage, but we'll continue to hear from residents this week. Hearing from residents is key. And I say this because there was a Syracuse.com letter to the editor. There was lots of activity on that nextdoor.com. And our residents use these other forums to comment on the assessment process. And we want to keep pulling information back into our formalized process of commenting to the board. And we know that this board is committed to making information transparent about how New York State property tax and assessment works. Many people find the method of real estate taxation based on property assessment cumbersome and difficult to follow. And there's often frustration expressed about taxes in upstate New York and how those taxes are higher than other parts of the US relative to market value. First-time home buyers, retirees, they're especially sensitive to this. We're all thinking about how the real estate market will react to a pandemic disrupted economy. Sometimes the relationship to assessment and taxes is conflated, and I would like to take a quick moment to clarify this cycle for residents. You know, the finalized assessments allow the town to calculate the total of all property values less exemptions. Then the tax levy is calculated, how much the town needs to raise for budgets after subtracting revenue from other sources, like other than property tax, like state aid, which we know will be impacted in the coming year, sales tax, fees, et cetera. Then sales tax, of course, related to how the county does that. Then the tax rate is compiled, which is the amount that needs to be charged per $1,000 of assessed value on a property to cover our local budgets. So what the village puts together, what our school districts put together, the fire departments. And therefore, it is important to follow the budget processes in all these places and for people to engage. And we're committed to supporting the efficiency and effectiveness of our assessment process and providing the residents and all of our constituents with information about how to understand and participate in it. And we really want people to share their ideas and their experiences about assessment this year. And I just wanted to make sure I put that in the record. I think it's really important. Thank you so much for the time.
That was great, Heather. You certainly have done your homework. There's no question about that.
I'm trying to educate myself.
Very good. Anything else, Heather?
Nope, that's it for now. Thanks to Rob again for the help with Hill Road.
Yes, thanks, Heather. All right, Elaine, do you have anything for us tonight?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, Karen?
I do. A couple of things, Ed. The Recreation Department is undergoing some major changes, much to the chagrin of Christine and Peggy. They have had to cancel the summer programs this year because of the virus. ESM has canceled their sports camps, and so subsequently the playgrounds at Pine Grove and Enders Road needed to be canceled. And Peggy will be putting that information out on the website and Facebook. The swim programs at Green Lakes also, unfortunately, had to be canceled for this year. However, all is not lost because of the creativity of this department and Peggy and Christine and the staff. They're putting together some play and stay virtual programs. And I spoke with Peggy today. They're really quite exciting and innovative. Each week there will be a theme, and she anticipates maybe getting 50 students each week. So you'll be hearing more about that. But tonight the news is the summer programs unfortunately need to be canceled. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. And I haven't had a chance to share this because I hadn't received the report from the Department of Agriculture, but the deer management program this year was very, very successful.
Yes.
It's the best year that we have had, actually. And I'll share with you that through January, February, and March, there were 12 nights. 88 white-tailed deer were removed during those 12 nights. And 2,322 pounds of venison were processed and delivered to over 9,284 meals to the local community that benefited from that. So the success of the program this year was the intermunicipal agreement with Fayetteville. We extended into the town of Manlius. The specific sites were key that we had, and certainly the recommendation from the Department of Agriculture and the Village of Fayetteville is to keep the program going, keep the sites certainly that we had this year, and continue to monitor damage, collisions, carcasses, and sightings throughout the year. So anyway, that was great news. I wanted to share. And then just the other situation is up on Sweet Road. There's been some residents up there at the Three Falls Woods, and I'll continue to talk to you and Rob and see the chief.
Okay. Karen, thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, the culling was shortened because
Yes,
of so
yes, about a week and a half, Ed. So
that would be key going into next season.
correct. And it's interesting because the county takes on this expense. We just pay for the processing.
Right.
However, I will tell you, I will forewarn you right now, we're not sure how that's looking for next year, unfortunately. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know that.
Karen, did they have a goal for how many deer they were hoping to remove from our?
We're right around the goal, Caitlin, for the manpower that we have and the number of sites. We did very well.
Great. Is there an idea of how many deer what our population is in the town? Like, is it like you said 82 that we had?
Pardon me?
We had 82 that we removed.
With 88.
88, I think it was.
88.
We had 88 that were removed.
I wonder how many deer we actually have. Like it.
Yeah, they do have that information, I believe, Karen.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I'd have to look it up, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. The DEC keeps track of that, and yes, it's a lot.
I've been seeing them more and more often during the day. Just in the village of Manlius, just walking around. Like,
oh
yes,
yes,
to see them. And I saw something on Syracuse.com saying that it's like doubling and sometimes almost tripling every year, the population. So it's and that's of course making the ticks worse.
Right.
Maybe the chief up on this, but one of the studies that was presented, remember Karen at Fayetteville last year, I think it was.
And I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you?
No, is this all right? Is this better?
That's better.
Okay. Last year we had that meeting at the I forget where she was, DEC, I forget. She gave the presentation.
Cornell.
Cornell, yeah.
Cornell, Christina Farrar, yes.
One of the studies they did were the increase or decrease in car accidents. And it was found that actually it increased in Manlius, Caitlin, because Fayetteville was culling and part of the time, so the deer were moving to Manlius. So
they're smart. They know where there's not shooting. They'll go that way.
The mayor needs to get on board, so that's a discussion that we're going to have with him too. So.
Yeah, we can. I'd be happy to talk to Mayor Worrell and continue this discussion with our other villages as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We don't, Manoa, we don't really have much issues up there. Like,
No.
it's 'cause we're surrounded by creeks, you know. That's probably
Yeah.
why it's why.
Maybe that's why it's not, you haven't had as much of the sprawl constrain the deer population into the
Right.
residential neighborhoods.
Yep.
So maybe it's not as big of an issue.
Yep, maybe not. Anything else, Karen?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Caitlin, you're up.
All right. So Ed and I had a conversation with Supervisor Michaelenko from the town of DeWitt, and spoke a couple times on how to proceed, the best options for proceeding with our interest in developing a solar project on our landfill. So it was a very productive conversation. I felt like we were on there with about an hour and a half, and the supervisor shared quite a bit of very useful information with us. So what we've got going on right now, just to bring everyone up to speed, we are moving forward with the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board and their big RFP that they put out with all those different municipalities. So that process is moving forward, but we're not eliminating all of our other options as well. So we'll be exploring a subsequent option where we could partner with DeWitt and follow a similar process that we're working with the planning board, where we're able to take advantage of the RFP that they released to work with the partner they worked with a couple years ago. So I've been in communication with that company, and that's RER Energy. And so I've been speaking with them, and they've been giving me more information. We've also had other proposals come in from other companies that I believe you should have all received. So you can review those proposals as well and get back to me. But the planning board and RER, I think are probably our best options. So it was really helpful speaking with Supervisor Michaelenko, because he really lent his support to the planning board. He thought they were a great option. He said that the reason why they hadn't moved forward with them at the time, they opted to go a different direction with RER, was just timing. He wanted to be able to move really quickly, and he felt he might be able to do that better with the subsequent option. And so that's the one that they went with. But he said that all options are on the table, and he'll continue to pick the best option for the town of DeWitt, which could very well be the same process we're following in the planning board. So I think we are doing our due diligence. We're keeping all of our options open, and we'll ultimately be able to get something done, hopefully at least started in the year 2020, so that we can take advantage of the best pricing options that would go down at the end of the year, with the federal investment tax credit due to decrease again by another 4%. It was 30%, now it's 26. It's due to go down by another 4%. So we want to move as quickly as we can. So I'll keep everyone updated on that. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. Doug, I'll probably be reaching out to you tomorrow, and Supervisor, you as well, to see what the process might look like for getting abundant. They're working with Barton and LaJudas, so with the municipal agreement we signed with the planning board. So Abundant wants to get there. They want to get BNL on the landfill to actually get boots on the ground and take a look and see what we're dealing with. So I'm hoping to join that little entourage. I think that sounds like the best field trip I could go on ever. So I'll keep everyone updated on that. But in the meantime, we'll start getting that scheduled. We also did work together as a team, and we worked with all 3 of our villages to honor Mental Health Awareness Month. And we put out a resource, 211, which is available in different counties all around New York State. And it's a free resource that allows people to reach a counselor if they are in a time of need and are struggling with their mental health. It's been a pretty difficult thing to be, thinking about for everyone, I think, with the pandemic going on. I think we've all had moments that we have felt that it's been a difficult time, and that has an impact on everyone in our own unique way. So we want everyone in our community, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you make, no matter what you're going through, to realize that there are resources available. And you can certainly contact me at any time, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with some of our local resources. But I just want to, as we wind down the month of May, this was Mental Health Awareness Month. So I was so glad to see our 3 villages and our town come together to support something so important.
Very good.
That's it for me.
Yep, well said, Caitlin. And just 2 things dovetail off from what Caitlin said regarding the solar projects. As promised, I did reach out. I wasn't able to catch up to all the municipalities yet, but I was able to talk with the former and current supervisor of Cicero, supervisors, I should say, as well as supervisor in Skaneateles, Janet Aaron, and I spoke with Colleen Gunnup of Salina, and I reached out to Damian Ulatowski. He's going to have more information for me tomorrow. Still have a couple more to go, but I've got to tell you, each story is quite interesting in how they are or are not still involved, or maybe back involved. So again, learning process. A great meeting with Ed Mikulenko, Kaylin, that we had. I learned more about megawatts and kilowatts than I ever thought I would, and it was quite educational. So I think we're heading down the right path by really investigating everything that we're looking into on this project and projects moving forward. So I'll have more information. I don't want to go into detail with all that right now. It'd take too long and we'd go past our 3 hours that I'm trying to keep under. So I do have one last thing, and that is the supervisor's monthly report, which is relatively thick, that I, again, this is for April, that I just need the board to approve.
I will make a motion to approve this, and I forgot to announce that we actually did meet with our CPA, Matt Dunn,
right,
about this. So
I forgot that too. We did
carefully read all of this stuff. So I am happy to make a motion to approve it.
I will second that motion because I was with Sarah in that meeting, and I feel confident to say that I also understand what we're voting on.
There's a lot there, I'll tell you. It's good.
It's a big learning curve, all these numbers and all the financials of running the town. It's our biggest responsibility as counselors. We have all these other things we're working on, but this is definitely the most important part. So I feel more and more confident all the time that we're all getting up to speed on how all this stuff works. So
that is great.
Happy to second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. I need a motion to adjourn.
Can I make the motion to adjourn?
Oh,
No, Karen, I'll second. You go.
I will gladly make a motion to adjourn, and stay safe, everyone.
I'll second that motion, yes. And we did it before midnight, everybody. Good job.
Thank you, Allison.
All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Allison, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Have a good
night.
evening.
Have a good night. Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Allison. Stay cool, everybody.